So I want to dive more into manifesting an avoidant partner, because this is a really, really hot topic and a really interesting topic as well. And it's something that I definitely experienced, as many of you know, when I met my partner who I'm now with and we have a baby together. He was so avoidant and he just wasn't opening up to me. I didn't understand. It was all very mysterious. I didn't really know what was going on. There was definitely such a strong connection, but nothing was happening. It wasn't progressing and I didn't understand why. And he was behaving in a way that really seemed like there were things that I didn't know about. And so I assumed, there's something going on with him. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he doesn't feel good enough. Maybe he's avoidant. And what do I do about that? Because all I wanted to do was shake him and say, "You're safe with me." But that wouldn't have made him feel safe, so I couldn't do that, even though actually I did try and do that. It doesn't work. Don't do that. I really wanted to convince him that actually with me he could be himself, and with me it was okay, and whatever was going on with him, it's okay, we can deal with it. I wanted to prove to him that we could deal with it together. So we've got two very conflicting behaviours happening here. I was being the chaser, the people pleaser, really neglecting my own needs, wanting him to feel safe, wanting him to feel secure. But what about me? And what about you? What about your needs? What about how you feel? Are you too busy focused on why this person is the way they are that you're forgetting about your own needs and your own desires in a relationship? So one of the things that I learned over my experience with this type of a dynamic was that in some way I was also avoidant. I actually felt safe and familiar with the idea of chasing love and it being distant and away from me and something hard for me to get. That was my emotional landscape. That's what I had grown up with my dad being away, with my parents not being together. Receiving love from a distant figure that was mysterious, away from me, I couldn't see what was going on, was a very familiar feeling. Now, not everybody who experiences this has had parents who broke up. Maybe your parents were together, but maybe there was a feeling of, the parents being busy or away, or there were other things going on. Maybe you actually can't remember the attention or connection that you had with your parents, even though they were there. That's another reason why it might be familiar to you to want a connection with someone who is distant. Okay, so these people, these avoidant people, they are our mirrors. They're mirroring something within us. And for me, it was mirroring that I was actually comfortable with chasing love. It was what I knew. And I thought that's how we did it. I thought that's how I was to get love, was to convince, to prove, to justify, to explain. And I used to do this so much. I really used to send very, very long messages to Johnny about, my feelings, and really try to show him the whole of my emotional world so that he'd know that actually everything that I was feeling was true and safe and he could open up to me. But all it did was actually push him away even more. So one of the things that I learned to do was to lean back and to actually let him be where he was in his journey. He had to come to his own sense of safety and confidence within himself in his own time. And it wasn't my job and it wasn't my responsibility to do that. And it was really hard to give up that. It was really hard to give up, the ways that I wanted to make him feel safe enough to love me. Right? But I had to step back. I had to let him go on his journey and be where he was and experience life for a bit. And that was, my experience. We had a long period of separation. And, over time, over the years, I saw that he was getting more and more confident. And over time, he got more and more confident without my input. It wasn't me, and it couldn't be me, because the thing is that he wanted on his own to feel like a man. He wanted to be able to be the man that he perceived that I needed. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about what I needed. I was too busy thinking about what he needed. And that was one of the things that needed to change. I needed to start to be able to really recognize what my needs were and be able to communicate them and be able to see my very low self-esteem. because I had such low self-love and I had such low self-esteem that I was actually okay with chasing and obsessing and wanting and needing this person to love me and validate me. And that went on for such a long time, until I really started going, what about my needs? What about my feelings? And actually I deserve that too. And it can feel really strange, because you can kind of think, yeah, I am worthy, I am good enough. But the thing is that he's never going to give that to me. I used to think, but I am worthy and I am good enough. But if I just be like this, if I just sit here in my worthiness, he is not going to come to me. And that felt really confusing and conflicting. And I felt still like I had to do something in order to get love. And then, I found the manifesting community and started doing all of the things that I'm sure you're all familiar with, because it felt like I was doing something. It felt like, oh good, I'm getting this, I'm doing what I normally do, which is do something in order to get love. And actually, in some ways, it was good, because it taught me about self-love, it taught me about self-concept, but it still had me in the pattern of doing something in order to be loved. So the scary thing to do is to lean back. As I said, the scary thing to do is to go, I'm good enough, and actually I have to let this person be where they are, and I have to let them evolve in their own time. And by chasing, you're also, doing the complete opposite of what makes this person feel safe. The thing to know is that an avoidant partner feels overwhelmed with an intensity of emotion and connection that can feel really unsafe to an avoidant. But to an anxious person, the lack of connection feels really unsafe. So these people come together, I believe, in order to help them heal those patterns. So one of the things that you can do for yourself is give yourself that love and connection. Be aware of your anxiety and your feelings and your dependency on another person, but also be aware of how chasing and explaining and trying to connect will also feel very overwhelming for this person, and that by you leaning back, they are more likely to feel safe enough to come and talk to you, to express their feelings to you. And then you can meet in the middle, and you get that beautiful moment of being able to connect in a safe space for both of your nervous systems. Okay, so this avoidant anxious dynamic is a very, very common one that happens so much, and it's exactly what happened with me and Johnny. And really the tables really turned so much, to the point where when we actually got together, I became really avoidant. I became so avoidant. Anxious and avoidant attachment styles are basically exactly the same thing, just portrayed differently. Both of them are fear-based behaviours there to protect the nervous system from overwhelm, okay? So all you can really do is actually work on yourself, work on your own sense of safety, so that you don't, with these anxious behaviours, push away the avoidant even more. And when you're safe and secure within yourself, you realise that the dependency starts to go away, and you become the change in the dynamic. You become the safe space, okay? And then people find it much easier to come towards you when you're not needing or depending so much on them. You know how that feels, when someone's really needing something from you or depending on you. And I know that some people thrive off that, but often it can feel very, very overwhelming. So with that energy, what you've got to do is turn it around so that you become the safe space. Now, this is not easy. It actually is a whole lot of years worth of programming that you've been used to and you've been familiar with, and it takes real consciousness and safety within your nervous system in order for you to be able to transform it and choose different behaviours, because that anxiety will come up, and that urge to chase and explain and people please is very likely to come up when you're wanting to be in a connection with someone who's avoidant, because it's very activating. And the thing is that the best time to transform these patterns is when you're activated, because that's when you get the opportunity to learn to choose different behaviours, to learn to self-soothe. When you're, learning to drive, for example, you can do all of the theory, you can think about how you drive in your head, But actually, when you're driving, it's a whole different thing. When you're in the car, you actually have to put these things into practice. And actually, if you've only just been thinking about it, you're very likely to make a lot of mistakes. So if you're feeling anxious and you're feeling triggered, then great, this is your opportunity to transform. And I know it can be really confusing, and I know it can be very difficult, which is why I've actually created the Conscious Creators Masters Academy, where we hold the space for these triggers to come up, for you to soothe yourself, for you to be with safe people who co-regulate with you, and actually give you the opportunity to change these narratives so that you can become the safe space which is approachable, easy for even an avoidant partner to come and transform with you. It's a very, very transformative journey, but it's very inspiring and very empowering because you get to be the change. You've heard that before. Be the change. You can't rely on someone else to change. Okay, you have to actually be the change that you want to experience in your relationships. So if you'd like to learn more about how to do this, how to be the change, how to be the transformation in your connection, then send me a message, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to know any more about the Conscious Creators Masters Academy, we can do a free discovery call where I can tell you more about it. You can ask questions, you can tell me where you're at. I'd love to hear from you. There are 8 spaces left for the end of March cohort. Maybe one of them is yours. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.